I'm still trying to clear my ear out from that one, and also I'm trying to clear my stomach out from watching SmackDown. I've tried Ipecac and syrup of swill. Neither one has worked so far. But Brian, let me ask you this: Do the and there wasn't much to SmackDown, as we'll find out. So we're gonna basically, it won't make any sense if we do it chronologically, because the only thing that really went on was the draft was an ongoing thing throughout the night, and then the tag match we'll get to. But let's talk about the draft. And so I wish somebody would have shut the door or closed the window, because I think I got a cold off of the draft. It made me ill. They're trying to make it a big deal. Do the average rank and file, normal, two-legged, living, breathing WWE fans out there in the hinterlands give two French fried titty fucks about the draft? Is it a big deal to them or only to the company?
They talked about it on TV a lot for a few weeks. They built it up big. So they built it up bigger than most of the wrestlers that they have on their show. I think it is a big deal. And you know what? Everyone has.
Well, I said they're building it up. Are the fans taking to it? Are they smelling what the office there is cooking? Are they buying what they're selling, is what I'm saying.
I think a lot of fans, at least until the first draft pick happens, and then after that, it probably starts dwindling a little more. I think there is some excitement, the idea that things could possibly change in some way.
Well, there you go. The idea that things could possibly get good suddenly.
Yeah.
Okay, boy, this looked like a first draft of a format for anyway. I don't understand, first of all, why anybody would give a shit, because most guys are on both shows, it seems, or the ones you care about, especially WrestleMania season. The production of both shows looks basically the same. It's a WWE production. You can't get away from the brand, whether you're on Raw or SmackDown. Even if it's different announcers, it's the same basic presentation. They've got different graphics, but it's not like you can't obviously see it's the same company and the same people interact with each other from the shows on a regular basis. So it's not like somebody just got sprung from Devil's Island or swam the bay from Alcatraz and have come into a brand new world. Does anybody that just watches the TV and doesn't live on the internet, do they keep track of who's on what show? Or if they watch both shows, how can they keep track of who's on a specific show, especially when they see them on both shows? These are questions. Do you have answers?
These are questions. And again, remember, at least according to what Triple H said, and things change very rapidly in WWE, especially as we get close to WrestleMania season next year. But the intention is Roman Reigns will only be on one show. That is going to be a very limited pool that they've announced that can appear on both shows.
Well,
did you see that they announced?
Yeah.
The pool of people that could be on both shows?
No, I saw SmackDown. And I know they've announced other draft picks after SmackDown on the interweb. And I wrote things down and it still confuses me. But we'll go over it.
Okay.
Because Triple H came out at the top of the program, SmackDown for April 28th, the draft episode. And the first thing that he said was, we're going to have 50% of the draft tonight and 50% on Raw. And make note of that, because I'm going to ask you as the sports expert a couple of questions here. And also, select NXT stars are available. Select. So who selected them? And why is only select? Shouldn't everybody be? Anyway.
Yeah, what is that? I didn't even think about that.
Okay, well, I see, because I'm going to tell you here in a minute. The rosters go into effect Monday, May the 8th. And Triple H was reading a lot of this off some notes, like a speaker at a future Farmers of America banquet. With not, I think it's some of these things, he even looked like he rolled his eyes at one point in time, like he lost an argument with Vince over, does this make any fucking sense? If you go back and watch this thing.
Well,
hold on.
The rumor is that he blinked in Morse code, "Save me, Tony."
So anyway, now I come to you, Brian. I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm just a small town bird lawyer. I really don't legitimately know anything about pro sports drafts otherwise than they go on. I don't know the rules. I don't know.
They go on and on and on, actually.
Well, but I mean, I know they happen. I don't know the rules. I don't know. I have the basic idea that, hey, these college kids are coming into the NBA or whatever the fuck, we're going to draft them to pro teams. I got the concept vaguely, but I don't know the rules. But it seems like that it would be the thing that you would do no matter what the sport was or no matter what the endeavor was. If you're drafting people, picking people that you want, and you've got the number one pick, that means that you would want to pick the absolute best person in that pool, the best baseball player, the best basketball player, the best whatever the fuck, right? The biggest money draw, the person that will help your team the best. That's kind of the concept, right?
Right. And again, what makes the WWE draft a little different than any of the major sports is that it's more like picking teams for intramurals than it is finding the best amateurs to fill your league in the future with.
Okay. But still, they've said in the build up to this thing that tag teams could be broken up or that, things could be uprooted. But for one thing, do you get to pick now a tag team or a guy with his friend and his manager or a group of 4 people as a draft pick in anything?
By the way, who's picking? We don't even know that.
Well, I mean, there's so many questions. I'm just trying to get to the top ones here first. And they have guest pickers. And they should have had Roy Clark and Buck Owens. One could have been picking, the other could have been grinning. But they had guest pickers all night where Triple H announced some of the picks. And then we'll get to JBL and Teddy Long and Rob Van Dam and the fucking bloated corpse of Michael Hayes. Oh. But how can you pick multiple people as a pick? Is that done anywhere else?
No, I mean, usually the first pick in the first round of the Major League Baseball draft, they'll take the most promising young player, more than likely out of college, but not necessarily out of college. That is not the way it's always done. Here, it was, we take this guy and 2 people that he's chosen to take with him. I've never seen that before, no.
Okay, and then second, well, I'll get to the point of the first pick, going to SmackDown, Roman Reigns and Solo and Paul Heyman. And that means that the new world champion, the fill-in champion, will be exclusive to Raw because Reigns is on SmackDown. But Reigns has been on one show as often as he's been on the other show here lately. I don't know what the fuck. And then Raw gets the number 2 pick, and that's Cody. Okay, if they'd have picked Reigns, and obviously his manager goes with him, Paul's a given, but Solo, that was odd, when they could have also picked him to go to SmackDown singly. And Cody makes sense because you've just picked the top heel, let's pick the top babyface. Now we go back to SmackDown. Ahead of Seth Rollins, Edge, Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, is Brock Lesnar involved in this fiasco? Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, they picked Bianca Belair. And that's why I asked you the question, well, wait a minute, isn't it the biggest stars? And I know she's one of the women's champions. But they obviously made it. We picked 2 guys, so now we got to pick 2 girls because number 4 going to Raw is Becky. And see above, yes, Becky and Bianca are 2 of the top women on the roster, but Edge, Rollins, McIntyre, Brock, these are bigger stars, right? So wouldn't they go quicker?
And by the way, if I'm the Raw general manager, boy, wouldn't it really screw up SmackDown if I don't pick any more women? If I only pick from the male pool, they'll have to eventually take all the women.
Well, yeah, but I mean, see, now they're just...
Bro, what if they didn't pick Becky Lynch next? What if they had said instead we take Damian Priest or something. Then it'll be like, oh, well, we have Bianca, what's next? And here's the other problem that you have, and you see this later on with one of the other picks. But if Bianca's the champion going here, that guarantees the other champions going there.
Well, if they wanted to try to make it interesting, they shouldn't have to guarantee that. If they had the two women's champions on the same show mad at each other because, well, this is my show, I'm the champion. Well, I'm champion of the other show I used to be on. Until somebody beats me, I'm on this show, but I'm their champion.
Actually,
so
that'd be good.
You.
With Rhea Ripley and Bianca, that'd be good. But the issue is now, not even that it's an issue, but Gunther gets drafted. So that means Austin Theory, because he's the other champion, is going to go to the other show. You just know it.
Well, hold on, we ain't there yet. And then they broke up and broke the draft up with various non-wrestling matches. At that point, Triple H introduced the Usos, but we're going to skip ahead and we're going to keep with the draft, and then we're going to come back when we get to the main event and tell you what you didn't miss because it almost didn't happen. So, next out was Rob Van Dam and Michael Hayes. And if you're a smart fan, which is about all we've got left, you know that Michael Hayes is on the creative team.
In the wardrobe department.
Certainly not the wardrobe department. He looked like an explosion in a Salvation Army drop box. But I think it's SmackDown that he's on. So, but the point is, if you're smart, most people are, you know that. Rob Van Dam, why is he picking people? If they just flew him in to fucking announce draft picks. So now this is kind of like the Oscars also, where they got guest pickers.
And he had the card upside down.
Well, I think he knew what the fuck.
I know, but it's still funny.
I actually.
You didn't even notice. You didn't notice.
I never noticed that until I saw it on Twitter. Somebody said it on Twitter. But anyway, so again, the first pick here is for SmackDown, and it's Montez Ford and Daryl Dawkins, the Street Profits. And so there's two of them. And they had said several times, I heard it in the middle of all the other blather leading up to this over the previous few weeks, teams could be split. Well, no, because they just drafted both. How can you? If you're going to have a tag team draft, that's great. That's actually smarter than splitting up any tag team that might be established, somebody might give a shit about, but then don't say teams can be split up. I don't. And then the next pick to Raw, Kaiser Wilhelm, Marcel Marceau, and our boy Gunther, all three of Imperium at the same time is a pick and goes to the other show. And then after that to SmackDown comes Edge, a Hall of Famer. And then to Raw goes Riddle, a Hall of Shamer. So this is telling me now that somebody thinks that it's better to have Montez Ford and Daryl Dawkins than the aforementioned Owens and Zayn, who are the undisputed tag team champions, or McIntyre, or fucking Rollins is not even, or Sheamus, or
well,
huge names.
But here's the thing that they didn't really clarify, or at least I don't think they did. But looking around online, there seems to be like an agreed upon talent pool for night 2. Was it that? When they said it's going to be 50% now, 50% Raw, was it?
Okay.
We're only picking from 50%, a pool of 50% of the talent?
Okay. Yes, and that would explain why they're doing this, but that wouldn't explain why they're doing this.
No, exactly.
Because in the NBA, once again, in the NBA draft, we got the 6 top players. Now we're going to go down to the fucking guys ranked in the 20s, and then we're coming back on Tuesday. And we're going to pick those guys from fucking 6 to 19 or what. You see what I'm going with this?
Well, Bianca Belair going to SmackDown. Now her husband, one of the Street Profits, going to SmackDown. Becky Lynch going to Raw. That basically guarantees Seth Rollins is staying on Raw, right?
I guess. Anyway, more drafting. Here came JBL and Teddy Long. And again, and I love probably 2 of my favorite people, during my period of time in the WWE would be JBL and Teddy Long. But what do they in this context have to do? They're guest pickers. Okay.
Can I say something about JBL?
Please go ahead.
And I won't say anything bad because I know you like him and I don't have anything.
I do.
I don't have anything fresh today. But someone just put up the video after you told the story about one of the Highlanders showing up in TNA. I forgot. The next thing that we saw him do was on Raw have a singles match with JBL. That was the punishment. I forgot all about that.
Well, and then I saw that also, and somebody put, and his punishment was a stiff beating at the hands of the clothesline was stiff. It was always stiff, but it was in the right place. And if you watch the match, he beat him in a minute. It was definitely a punishment, but he didn't potato him or hurt him at all.
It wasn't Public Enemy.
Well, in relation to any other match that he's ever had. Like I said, the clothesline was there regardless of who you were. But anyway, so on going to SmackDown. Now, Bobby Lashley, by the way. Bobby Lashley is not as big a fucking addition as Kaiser Wilhelm. And then to Raw, Drew McIntyre. And then to SmackDown, we forgot about these fine fellows. Gallows and Anderson and AJ Styles, who's coming back from an injury, and Mia Yim. 4 people are a pick.
Get ready, Judgment Day. Get ready. It just so happens there's 3 people and a woman. Well, not 3 people and a woman. 3 men and a woman.
3 people and a woman.
I sound like Andy Kaufman over here. No, there's 3 male wrestlers and a woman, so they're set up for the Judgment Day.
That used to be, you know what? Every once in a while in the early 70s, Nick Goulas, especially on his end, but they had it once here in the Gardens. I wish I'd have seen it, but it was before I got to start going live. But they would have a 8-person mixed tag match with a regular-sized man, a regular-sized woman, a male midget, and a female midget on each team. And that was just swell. Anyway, and the next pick going to Raw after the entire O Club. They're in the O Club, all 4 of them. Raw gets Miz. Oh, joy, oh, bliss.
They already had him. He's not going anywhere.
Oh, well, there you go. So he doesn't even have to fucking pack his bags.
But the next round of the draft was the big one. That was the really big one.
Okay.
Shawn Michaels is very upset.
And then here comes Shawn Michaels and Road Dogg. Okay. Again, if you're smart, you know that Road Dogg is involved in the office, and Shawn Michaels is presented as the major domo of NXT. So there's some involvement here. But at this point, though, this was not exciting television. And we're going to mention briefly the wrestling that they didn't have. But it was like watching a local city council meeting on cable access at this point, as they're just reading names and showing graphics. So,
and again, just in the world of kayfabe, we still don't know who's actually picking any of these people. Who's giving these wrestlers the orders of what picks to make?
Yeah, a couple of times they did reference
a door.
Well, they're still deliberating. Yeah. Yes, they're still deliberating in the back, and there's the door. It was Klondike Bill. Klondike Bill's the one picking the wrestlers. That you didn't pop on that indicates it's been a long time since I've told that story, and I won't descend into it now, or as Mama Cornette would say, digress, but remind me sometime of the Klondike Bill story.
The drive-thru's in a few days.
Anyway, so going to SmackDown, Bayley and Kai and Sky, all 3 of them, their group is unharmed and impervious to breakup. And then to Raw goes Shaky Nakamura.
I'm happy with that. That's a good thing. If you want to get anything new out of him, put him on a new show.
Well, there you go. I wish he'd be on a whole new show. Maybe something in the line of, I don't know, fucking home repair, gardening.
See, the problem is you've never actually seen any of his good matches, so you're only judging him based on the way he's been used on
based
TV
on
by
what
WWE.
He does now.
Yeah.
I'm judging him based solely on what he's done for the last 3 years.
He was off TV for like a year. But anyway.
Next pick, going to SmackDown, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn.
Oh, boy.
Yes, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn.
Melba Toast and...
and Plum Pudding.
Yeah, wash with Dawn.
Hey, that Dawn is good for your dishes. My mother used Dawn. And going to Raw, right after them, Indy Hartwell.
Yeah, I'm actually interested to see how she does. She wasn't too bad. She had some size.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Indy Hartwell. And I'm sure I will be at some point saying there's something wrong with Alba Fire and Isla Dawn because I've never fucking seen them. But Jesus Christ. Again, there's a lot of stars. And we're not getting them. They're not being mentioned.
Did you see the supplemental picks after the fact?
No, well that's where the draft on the SmackDown episode ended. So let's now, what have they trickled out under cover of darkness in the way of news on the draft over a weekend where nobody's paying close attention?
Here are some of the draft picks that weren't worthy of making the actual show on TV. Apollo Crews will be leaving NXT, drafted by Raw. I didn't realize he was in NXT. Huh. Shows how long it's been since we watched that.
Yeah.
Starting on Raw and staying on Raw, Candice LeRae.
Oh, boy. So Candy doesn't have to move or anything.
Coming together as a tag team, although one is from Raw, one is from SmackDown. Raw is picking Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. Because Sonya's from SmackDown, Chelsea's from Raw, according to this.
But they've been hanging out together for the last month. Every time we've seen one, we've seen the other.
I guess that's all it takes to be drafted together, right? Just
okay.
Well, staying on Raw, Dexter Lumis. Watch out, Indy Hart. Is he married to Indy Hartwell in character still?
I don't know, but have we seen him recently?
Uh-oh, that's like his gimmick. Better watch out behind you. If you haven't seen him in a while.
Here he is. He's in the house. He's in my house. Wait. Oh, my God. He's coming through the window.
Sounds like he's through.
Wait, he's lobbing Molotov cocktails.
He's got missiles.
He's got missiles now.
Oh,
it's wait. They're announcing an air raid.
Thought it was a truce.
Oh my God. I think I've just herniated myself. All right.
Well, that was the right sound effect to end with because SmackDown will be retaining Ashante the Adonis, B-Fab, and Top Dollar, better known as Hit Row.
All righty. So we have more entertainment coming up in the foreseeable future with Flop Dollar and his gang.
I think this is one of those times where WWE Creative and you and I, our minds are kind of together. They enjoy it for the same reasons we enjoy it now, and that's why they keep booking it. But going from NXT to Raw, Jim, J.D. McDonough.
Who?
I'm not sure. And SmackDown, another pick they'll be retaining on their show, Lacey Evans.
Boy, howdy. They have pretty much humiliated and embarrassed and/or just dropped the ball with her on every one of their programs, right? But now we hear somebody sent me an email, and I lost it before I read it on the program. It said that she's apparently a very right-wing lunatic that doesn't believe in autism and has said rude, nasty things on the internet or whatever, so they may be trying to hide her.
Usually they put you in the boardroom in WWE if you talk like that. But the next pick, Raw will be retaining Marseille and Soiree, the Maximum Male Models, with Maxine Dupree.
All righty. Shouldn't it be something that you can do in the draft where if nobody wants you, they can dump you and give you the or a gong or something?
We'll get to that list shortly. getting drafted from SmackDown to Raw, Natalya. And going...
Well,
go ahead.
that seems a lateral move for Natty.
Also going from SmackDown to Raw, the Viking Raiders and Valhalla.
Maybe that's why they just beat the Vikings and Val in like 90 seconds on this program.
And finally, going from NXT to Raw, Zoe Stark.
Reedy.
Now, Jim, I have free agents here. The following wrestlers were declared free agents mostly due to going undrafted. They're allowed to appear on both Raw and SmackDown.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on here. So if you're so crummy that nobody wants you to draft you, then you get to be on both shows? Then doesn't that mean that all the people that got drafted are now pissed off? They're like, well, fuck, we cut our payoffs in half. If we were the shits, they'd put us on both shows.
Well, free agents that could...
Does this make any sense?
No, when do you hear this list? The free agents that could appear on both shows, Dolph Ziggler can now appear on both Raw and SmackDown.
So he can do double the amount of jobs.
As well as Mustafa Ali.
So he can do quadruple the amount of jobs.
As well as almost an MVP.
Okay. Maybe so they can just show up wherever it will be the most palatable instead of trying to put him on one program and people getting sick of him quick. That's my thought there.
Been booked horribly, and we don't know how much talent he has or doesn't have, but he is a giant, so that is the kind of person you kind of wish you could have bounce back and forth, I would think. And finally, undrafted free agent from NXT, Von Wagner.
Okay, he's the guy that looks like they took his brain out and put it back in again. He's got the giant head.
I read about that once in The Observer.
Yeah, it's a growing trend, but he looks like they kind of flattened his head out like the Jack Pierce makeup of the Frankenstein monster, and then just put a latch on it. And he's gonna, I'm sure, make a lot of waves.
Now I have a list here. This is from Wikipedia of unlisted wrestlers. Again, we'll talk about who's drafted on Raw when we do the Raw review, but these are wrestlers not currently listed in either talent pool, I guess. Alexa Bliss, Aaliyah, Big E, obviously injury plays a part in some of this.
Right.
Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy.
Ha ha!
Carmella.
Nobody wants you.
Is anyone clamoring for, there was a bit of a fan base clamoring for him when he was gone last time. I think it's gone now.
I'm thinking people are just holding their breath, hoping he doesn't show back up.
Randy Orton, Robert Roode, again, both injury related. Shanky, I forgot all about this guy. How's he on this? Remember the big guy that they called Shanky?
Oh,
I forgot all about him.
And his little dog Spanky.
And finally, Tommaso Ciampa.
Where in the world has Tommaso been? I haven't thought of him since we quit watching NXT.
It says here, again, Wikipedia, he last appeared on Raw September 17th, 2022. He's inactive due to a hip injury.
Well, as tremendous as his work was and as hard as he does work, he is also he's overcome a number of serious injuries in his career. So I'm not saying he's injury prone, but at this point, there's almost nothing he hadn't hurt. So I hate to hear that.
Before we move on to SmackDown, I want to ask you a question, but any final thoughts on night one of the draft?
Yeah, I wish they weren't going to have night two, because it's going to be worse. Because now we know half of the people that they're not going to be talking about. I mean, I think they're trying to sell us the sleeves off their vest here. They're selling a big deal that's a popcorn fart.
So my question is, seeing that number one in the draft was Roman Reigns and number two was Cody Rhodes, and everything that built into WrestleMania, people are still disappointed over the ending. And that happens. Look, there's still people upset Sami Zayn didn't win in Montreal. People get upset over finishes. But partly people are upset because it didn't seem like it was the right thing. Things haven't really felt right since. And now with this, having a new world championship, and now Roman Reigns and Cody are on different shows, unless there's some wacky trade. Now WrestleMania's booking looks even worse, but what do you do now with Cody? Because Cody, if he just wins the other championship, his story doesn't feel complete in any way. However,
No,
you don't want him chasing someone new also, because then he's just chasing someone new for a new title. That feels kind of the same thing as a letdown. What do you do now?
That's the he either gets the consolation belt or chases someone else for the consolation belt. If their plan is to keep, it's starting to look like now, like they put Reigns on SmackDown and he's going to have the belt till WrestleMania next year, and they put the new one on Cody or put the new one on someone, and then Cody wins it between now and WrestleMania next year and holds it for some period of time until he demands the rematch or something like that. That's maybe how they're going to string this out. But I just had a thought when you were speaking. I was trying not to listen to you, so I was thinking about other things. What would it have been like, since they obviously knew what they were going to do after WrestleMania, before WrestleMania? So what would it have been like if they did this? Cody beats Roman Reigns. Cody wins the undisputed Universal title, and he fulfills the story, but Roman Reigns then hears about this new world championship belt they're going to make, because they wouldn't have had to worry about they could have said, basically, instead of saying the other guy only shows up to work part-time and you fans deserve that, so we're going to give some schlub that doesn't have the pull to get booked every week, we're going to give him another title to defend. They could have announced another title with a better reason, such as even the network demands a champion on this program, and Roman hears about that and smashes everybody and wins the new belt. And then holds that undefeated for a year while Cody's over on the other program, and then you have WrestleMania. I don't know. I just farted that a second ago.
And that's a whole lot better than everything they've done since. I think they've squandered a lot of the goodwill, and we've talked about it, but...
And then Roman could even be, I don't want this belt that I hold, but nobody's going to take it away from me because it's the key. And then maybe you have at WrestleMania every year, there is a clash of the two champions. I don't fucking... Well, then you'd have to split the fucking belt off again. I don't know.
You know what else? It's a way, not saying this is perfect, but it's a way to give Cody a grievance even though you've made him the champion. That's kind of legitimate. He finally overcomes everything and wins the title they stole from his daddy, and then they steal the prestige right from under him and just make another world champion.
Yeah. Cody's pissed that they've declared another champion for the, necessity of the other program and the expansion around the world. And Reigns is the guy he still smashes everybody else and wins that thing, but he doesn't want it. And even he spits on it because he wants what he had that Cody took away from him. But nobody's going to fucking take the new belt away from him because that's his ticket back to Cody. And then you've got a guy that's disrespecting one of the fucking championship belts while the other guy is the All-American.
Hey, let me ask you this let's finish this hypothesis with this. Everything you just said there at the end, what if you do that with Cody now? He wins the title and he immediately denounces it. This is not what I want. This is not what I've been chasing. I know you're on a different show. I'm going to find a way to get to you, even if it means I have to win the Royal Rumble again to pick who I'm going to wrestle.
There you go. And that's probably what they're about to do.
This has been Booking 101 with Jim Cornette.
I'm not the thing. Well, no, with Brian last too, but I'm not sure.
Hello.
I'm not sure that it might be good for Cody and they prolong it to WrestleMania, but I still think that moment was there. That moment was there. But all right. Speaking of a moment that was there, let's real quickly tell you what else was on SmackDown, because this is hilarious, in my opinion. As soon as Triple H was out and done doing the first round of draft picks, he brings the Usos out. And they did a promo and did comedy back and forth while they were talking about Roman Reigns not calling them or texting them or being in contact with them or returning their messages, but they were doing the back and forth comedy. He didn't return our text. No, he didn't return our smoke signal. He didn't return our... Was that the right emotion, the right demeanor, as Finkel would say, for them to have been doing that and kind of making fun of the fact that the big man ain't speaking to him? Anyway, then Owens and Zayn come out, because that's the main event, the tag team match, and have their face off. And Sammy tells him one more time, you're dedicating the match to this guy. He won't even talk to you. He's drafted without you. And the Usos tell him to piss off, and Kevin Owens tells him to fuck you, and there we go. And then, Brian, you know we've been waiting for LA Knight to get a win on TV. They finally found somebody he can beat, Butch. It was 22 minutes into the program. The bell rang for match number 1. They went 90 seconds and went to the break. They came back just in time to see LA Knight do his incredible leaping superplex and get a 2 count.
Man, I saw crowd footage of that, and you could really appreciate the pop it got. Because all through this match, you could tell the fans are really getting into LA Knight. I don't even think he's the babyface here, but they're really getting into LA Knight. They're chanting for him. They're yelling his name. But when you see the crowd footage without the WWE sweetening, you could really appreciate it. They're into him.
And it was an incredible, again, move, athleticism. And I wish that had been the finish, because he was going to win anyway. Within 2 minutes, he beat the fucking guy anyway. So the point is, he got 3 minutes and a win over the lowest ranked guy on the totem pole. And then Paul E is with the Usos, because we're setting up the main event here first, folks. He's telling the Usos tonight's their night. It's going to be all or nothing, the island of relevancy or the sea of obscurity. Gives them a big pep talk, and then says tonight is the night, but behind them he's looking at Solo and hands Solo the roll of tape so he can tape his thumb. Ernie Ladd would have been proud. And then they had a three-way... Well, go ahead. What?
Are they getting too cute with Heyman doing things right next to the Usos or behind the Usos that the cameraman sees?
Yes. It's so obvious. Yes. And you would think that the Usos, maybe their wives or children, might tell them, watch out for that fucking Heyman.
Maybe like in the middle of the show, like a text message, hey, I'm watching on national TV. You better watch out.
Yeah.
No.
And the only other, we got 2 other matches on this program. For whatever reason, they had a 3-way tag team match with the Street Profits, Ricochet and Strongman, and the LWO, all 3 babyface teams. And as soon as they rang the bell, they did a comedy spot where Brown was going to throw Ricochet like he did last week, but he was going to throw him at the opponents, and Ricochet's like, no, I promise, no, I promise. And they spend 30 seconds talking this over, and then he says, okay, and the strongman throws him over the top, and the guys were standing there waiting to catch him the whole time. And they went to the break. That was 30 seconds. And then they came back, and it was over in 3 minutes. Each team got like a minute. And then Zelina and Cruella. Zelina beat Cruella in 1 minute. And then Rhea Ripley hit the ring and leveled Zelina and Cruella. And then Zelina reverses a riptide and DDT'd her and ran off. And
that's your senator, Randolph.
Randolph. He is mentally and physically off. And then, for no apparent reason, AJ Styles and Gallows and Anderson come out to the ring, and Mia Yim, and they start a promo, and here come the Vikings and Val. And they interrupt the thing, and they just get in a sloppy fight, and they kick the shit out of the Vikings for like 20 seconds and leave them laying and walk off. And
why do we have factions everywhere in both companies now? This isn't good.
I don't know. And besides, for a pre-tape of Karrion Kross attacking Nakamura in the back and beating him up, that was the entire program. except for the main event tag team match. 8 minutes of wrestling in an hour and 40 minutes. And they rang the bell for the main event, Sammy and Owens against Usos for the tag title. They had 20 minutes left in the show, right? So the Usos, the heels, jump them from behind and beat them up and double super kick Owens, and they go to the break in 1 minute. What the fuck? We cannot see a wrestling match. When they come back, they're getting heat on Owens, and they've wrapped his leg around the post. He sold it the whole match. But with a minute or so of heat, then Owens tags Sammy. Sammy makes comeback and a dive and gets some 2 counts while they do the thing where Owens and the other Uso aren't even on the ring or anywhere in sight. And then they stop Sammy and they go to another break. They've been going like 4 minutes. I mean, what? You can't concentrate on or get into anything. And when they come back, there's less than 10 minutes on the air. Sammy gets another tag to Owens, another comeback, a 2 count. At that point, they leave the match and go to a camera in the back on Paul and Solo watching the match on the monitor. And Paul gets the phone call from Roman and looks at Solo and says, "Tonight is your night." Then they go back to the match. Now, the fans in the arena are loving the match that we have barely seen.
Yeah.
I will say that for them. The fans there that actually have gotten to see this fucking thing, they're loving it. And then here comes Solo out seconds later because it's his night. And before he even gets through ringside, Riddle jumps him. And in the sloppiest looking way I've ever seen, they fought off. Just fought off. They walked through a curtain
with lots of people around.
Because it was one of the side arena exits, but they just walked through a curtain with Riddle throwing what were allegedly punches at Solo's back, and they just walked through the curtain. And that was it for Solo. And now we go back to the ring, and now the Usos have Owens in the ring by himself, and they throw 4,000 super kicks. And the referee standing there letting them just double team at will. And then after they can't beat Kevin Owens with 4,000 super kicks, and he keeps fighting back, then Sammy pulls one of the Usos out. Owens stunners the other one. Sammy rolls in and hits the fucking haluva kick. 1, 2, 3. It was probably a good match. We saw very little of it, and there were a lot of distractions, but Solo was left with his dick in his hand, and the Usos got beat again. So, and I'm not saying I expected them to switch the belts, but I don't know what to say. What do you say?
It was hard to really care about this match after the whole show. Plus, I just think that the way they've done these backstage segments, the way there's been no forward mobility, whether you like Riddle or not, he was just kind of thrown into this despite past issues with Solo. They've taken all the steam out of this for me. Now, look, they had a hot crowd there, and they were into it. But I said the other day, the more Sammy talks and tries to be the peacemaker with all this stuff, I don't want to see him and the Usos talking to each other anymore. Like, we've done that. Now just fight without going to commercial.
Yes.
Are the Usos going to get drafted away from SmackDown? What do you think they're going to do there?
Well, hopefully they'll at least get to go to the Marines or the Army, because I don't think they'd do well in the Navy. Well, maybe they're from an island. No,
I don't even know.
They're going to get drafted.
Yeah, but why wouldn't they do well in the Navy?
Well, then I thought, because they're from an island, they've been around waters, they probably would, I guess. But hopefully it won't be the Air Force.
Are they from an island, or is their dad from an island?
Well, they're from the island of relevancy.
That's true. That's a very good point. Very good. That's in the state of Euphoria, I understand.
Yes.